What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. As always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for showing support. Thank you guys for showing love towards every single episode. If you are here, please like, comment, subscribe if you are new. Mostly just, leave a like. And if you like this content, please leave a comment what you like about it, what you liked about the episode. And if you like the solo episodes moving forward, it's not a sponsor, but I have First Form. Not sure if you guys ever had First Form. That is the drink of choice today. It's very good, actually. And this one is Screaming Freedom. First Form. If you are in need of podcasters moving forward, I'd love to talk, but I really genuinely like this product. This isn't the first time that I've had this, though. I've had it at Fanatics Fest. They had a nice little kiosk where they were giving out First Forms, and I think I had this flavor actually at Fanatics Fest. So full circle moment. Cheers for the people that are watching. Now for this episode, I wanted to do something different. I saw one of my buddies at the Journey podcast. Shout out Zach. Shout out John. Shout out Jake. They did a episode where they had ChatGPT and or AI interview them. And I thought it was very interesting. I wanted to see what it could do and how it can interview me and how deep it could actually get in the interview. So I have a prompt and I basically want to say, how ChatGPT can interview me, and hopefully we get some good content out of it, some good questions and some good thought-provoking answers out of it. Okay. Let's do it. Question number 1. When was the moment you realized you needed to become better? Not for anyone else, but for yourself. What triggered that shift in you? I think I'm going through that now. I think that I always know or have a knowing that I need to become better. And I think I just want so much out of this life. And anybody, that's really watching this episode or watching the podcast and maybe consumed into self-improvement content has this feeling of inadequacy. And I think I didn't ever feel adequate enough for success or the things that I've received in this life. And as I look at this, when exactly did that happen when I feel like I needed to become better? Because I think the advice that I've been giving to other people, I've needed to give to myself. And I think sometimes when people see me or the words that I speak or just the advice or perspective, let's call it, that I give, I think subconsciously deep down I needed that. And I do need that. And I think as of recent, the things that I've been preaching or the advice that I've been giving, I've not been giving it to myself. So in return, I haven't really been giving that love or that guidance that I've been giving others to myself. And I don't know if I truthfully been loving myself for a long time. I think there was at one point early in, 2020, 2021, where I've been giving myself that love and that reassurance and that, I don't know, maybe just connection to myself, if that makes sense. But I think the moment where I realized I need to become better is when I didn't feel adequate enough for the things that I was receiving, or I kind of felt like a fraud, or I felt like imposter syndrome in a way, because I'm preaching all of these things, but I'm not giving that to myself. Like, I'm not giving the love to myself. I'm not motivating myself in the ways that I need to. The way that I tell others they need to show up, I was failing to do that for myself. And I think that's a tough realization, because when you tell everybody else what they should be doing and you're not giving that to yourself in return, you feel like a fraud. you feel like you're preaching all of these things, but you can't give it to yourself. It's like you're showing up in ways that you would want other people to show up, but you can't show up for yourself in the ways that you needed. And I think as of recent, I've been feeling that. As of recent, what I've been preaching or the advice that I've been giving, I have not been giving that to myself. And I guess in a way, is that for other people? Maybe. But I think it's also feeling like I'm not doing enough. Because I'm telling, people everything else that I'm doing, but I'm not going to the extent that I tell other people they should go to. It's like, how can I preach? How can I walk the walk if I'm not talking? How can I talk the talk if I'm not walking the walk? How could I preach all of these things and give people all of this life insight or life advice if I'm not implementing that into my life? Like if I'm not waking up at 7 a.m, or I'm not, if I'm checking my phone first thing in the morning and I'm telling people they shouldn't check their phone, well, you're a fraud in a way. You aren't living up to what you tell other people you are. And, like Zach said, I think it's a scary place to be when everybody else around you tells you how good you're doing, but you aren't able to look that and accept that into yourself. Like when you look in the mirror, you don't see who you are. You don't see who you are. You see a fraud version of yourself because deep down, you're not doing enough. And I think for a lot of times I realize that I'm not doing enough, or I'm not meeting that marker on where I should be. I'm not releasing weekly episodes. I'm not recording frequently as I like. And I have the power to change that. Like I have the power to completely change my life. But for some reason, it's not resonating into my head to like drill it. I'm telling myself I should be doing all of these things, but I'm not doing it for whatever reason. There's analysis by paralysis. Like I'm analyzing all of these things in my life that I know I should be doing, but I'm not doing it. And then in turn, I feel like an imposter. Like I'm not the person that I preach. I'm not walking in the way that I should be walking. And I think that's when I've realized, that I needed to become better, is because of that. Because I'm telling other people that they should love themselves, but deep down, I'm not loving myself. I tell myself all these things that I need to accomplish, but I don't follow through on that accomplishment. Or I set out things for the day that I know I should be doing and I don't do it. So it's like, I think true confidence is when you tell yourself you're going to do something, you do it. And there's no questions asked. There's no, I'll save it for tomorrow. I'll maybe do it later. Like, no, you do it. You follow through on what you say you are going to do. And in return, I don't think that's self-respect. I don't think that's self-love. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, you follow through on what you said you are going to do. You keep those promises to yourself. Those small little promises you keep to yourself, because that is the version of you showing up for yourself and becoming better each day. And that's where I feel like I fall short. And I think I've been coming to that realization as of late. And I think what triggered that is that I'm just fed up with not being who I say I want to be, or not becoming the man I know I need to be. And I'm telling other people the version that they should be, but I'm not doing that myself. So if I'm not doing that within myself, then how can I preach to other people about things that they should be doing in their life if I'm not doing it for myself? So I feel like that's what I've needed. That's kind of where I realized I needed to become better. And I think I've just been feeling it as of late. Because I'm letting myself down. I'm not living up to my full potential because I'm not fulfilling those promises to myself. I'm not keeping those promises to myself. And I know I probably should. And I'm preaching this version of myself, and I'm not following through on it. It's a deep one. What's a version of yourself from the past that you've had to grieve in order to grow? What part of you did you have to let die to become who you are today? Ooh. Wow. ChatGPT, huh? What's a version of yourself from the past that you have had to grieve in order to grow? That I often see the best in people. I think I see the best in people in relationships. I think I see the best in people in friendships. And I fail to acknowledge that sometimes these people are just who they are. And I think I've tried to change people in the past or accept people where they're at. And I think sometimes I really wish that people would change. And I understand I can't save everybody. And I think that's such like a God complex answer where I feel like I need to save, or a superhero complex where I feel like I need to save other people from themselves. And I think there's only one person that can do that, or one being that can do that. And I think that's God. And I think I often try to save people in that way, but that's not something I could ever do. So I think I see the best in people in relationships, and I think sometimes that people will change because I see that potential in them. And I think I often see so much potential in other people, even when they don't see it in themselves. And the only thing that's gotten me is that's gotten me hurt. You know, relationships have ended because of that. Friendships have ended because of that. And I know that people could be the best because I see it in them. But I think that that's just a lonely path to go down. You know, the only thing that I've been able to see by seeing the best in people sometimes and not listening to really what they're showing me, or really observing what they're showing me and take it at face value and letting people reveal who they actually are and listening to that, is that's gotten me hurt. That's gotten me heartbroken. That's gotten me. That's just, yeah, it's gotten me hurt. That's gotten me broken. Because if people show me who they are, I need to trust that. And I think it's hard when you when you see good and you want people to be good and you know that they have the capacity to be good, but they can't see that within themselves, or they can't change their ways to become the best version of themselves, because sometimes people are just enrooted in their trauma or enrooted in their ways and they can't change. And I think I've had to come from a stance of more or less accepting these people, that they may never change, despite how I view them, or despite how I perceive they could be, or the potential that they could reach, that I have to let them be who they are, and I have to let them go through their own challenges and allow them to see their potential or see the changes that they could make in their life. And I think it's hard because we often do that in relationships. Like, we do that in friendships. We want people to be this version that we see that they could be, or change themselves in a way that we know they could be, but for whatever reason, they don't. And then that gets us hurt, because in relationships, we expect that people would rise to our expectations. But I think when you expect somebody to do something, or you expect somebody to be this version of themselves, that often can get you disappointed. And expectations are the easiest way to let yourself down. It's the easiest way to be disappointed. Because even though you expect somebody to do something and they don't do it, now you're creating this false perception of this person. Now you're creating this false idea of this person on how they should act, on how they should be. And when we expect it that way and we don't receive that person or that thing, or we receive love in a way that we wanted and we didn't get it that way, then we feel hurt. And I think that's all ego, and I think that's an egoic thing. But at the end of the day, like, we have to let ourselves go from that. We have to release ourselves from that egoic state. So I think the biggest thing for me is expecting people or trying to help people, and I think that they could be the best versions of themselves, or try to change them, or this is how they should be, or this is how they should act, and in a way that's just so egoic, because I see the best in people, but they just sometimes don't see the best in themselves. And I think that they'll change, or I expect that they might change, and they don't change. And I think that that's been the biggest thing in my relationships, is that I've stayed in relationships way too long expecting this person to change, but they've never changed. They've never given me reason to believe that they might change. And I think I've always had this belief that they will change. They're going to change their ways. They're going to change their habits. They're going to change the way that they show up. They're going to change the way that they love me. They're going to change the way that I would like to be loved. But I've stayed way too long, and I've overstayed. And the only thing that's gotten me is hurt and broken. And I understand now that I can't change everybody. I can't expect people to change. If they come at me with how they are, and I have to just take that at face value. I have to look at that and say, you know, if they never change, are you still going to want to be around this person? Are you still going to want to love this person? And if the answer is yes, then great. But if the answer is no, then you can't force somebody to change if they don't want to change. You can't force somebody to change if they don't want to change. They'll change maybe when they're ready, or they may never change at all. And me trying to change somebody else that's not love. That's artificial love. If I'm trying to change you, I don't love who you are. You should want to change for me, because you should want to change for yourself, because you love yourself. And I'll love that version of you, whoever you become to be. That's unconditional love to me. If you change for yourself, and if I love you unconditionally, I'm going to love that person. You know, maybe only under the conditions that I love that person. Maybe that's conditional love. I don't know. But that's what I would say to that. You've sat across from some of the most successful people in the world. What's something you've quietly struggled with that no one sees? And how do you carry that in rooms full of greatness? I think kind of like the first point that I alluded to, that I don't feel adequate enough to be sitting down in front of these people, because I don't feel like I've done enough. And I think that's what I struggle with the most, is imposter syndrome. I feel sometimes an imposter sitting down from, you know, when I was sitting down with Jim Keys, or I was sitting down with Alan Gabay, or I was sitting down with Lilo Brancato, or I was sitting down with, you know, some of the therapists that I've talked to. I've been, you know, sitting down with some of the people that I've interviewed. I just felt like a complete, not a fraud, because I don't think that, but I think an imposter, because I haven't done the things that they've done in their life. So what gives me the reason to believe that I should be able to sit down and interview this person? It's like you don't fit in, you know? It's like you don't fit in. And like, there's this weird part of me that does deserve, that I feel like I do deserve to sit down in front of these people. And I feel like I do deserve to interview these people. But then when I look at their success and what they've done, I think Jim Keys was a good example of that. That multi-millionaire, done some incredible things, created an incredible book, was a CEO of 7-Eleven. And then I'm here, a young kid who's curious about the world, who's curious about this person and how they became successful. But I'm still struggling with that power dynamic. And not feeling confident fully that I deserve to be in these rooms. I think subconsciously I know that, or unconsciously I know that I deserve to be. But there's this deep conscious feeling that I haven't done things that are at the level to Jim and at the level to some of these people that I've had on. So why do I deserve to be in this room? And I think I struggle with imposter syndrome a lot. It's just, it's a tough thing to feel. It's a tough thing to deal with, because you're interviewing this person, and mid-interview, you're like, wow, I'm sitting across from this person. Multimillionaire. And I know I've talked about so many, I know I talked about so many superficial things like money or success or fame. But at the end of the day, it's this battle with struggling to accept that I deserve to be in this room too. And I think I've been slowly coming to that realization that I do, because I think that within my work, within these conversations, that they're real conversations, they're genuine. And I think just telling myself that, you know what, that you are genuine in this conversation and in this interview, and all of this is coming out of good heart, and for the people to foster so they can see a nice conversation, a vulnerable conversation, a back and forth. And that's what you want to promote is great conversation and vulnerable conversation and transparent conversations that foster growth within the person across from you and the audience itself, and maybe within me during this interview. So I think that's been a struggle of mine, is feeling imposter syndrome during these interviews because I have not reached the success that they've reached, or the fame that they've reached, or the money that they've reached. And I'm working on that, and I'm getting better with it, but it's still something that comes up for me. And you guys often see it's like, oh, it's a polished video. Like, I look confident. But deep down, I think sometimes I'm fighting that anxiety to hold it together, to put it together. You help people become 1% better every day. What's something you've avoided improving in yourself, and why? I think that negative voice that I have. I think I leech on to this negative voice. Not even leech on, but I think that I really give power to this negative voice, and I really feel like I need this negative voice, because I think I've been so strong without it. Like, I think, or with it, I mean, I think that I feel like I need that negative voice. The person that tells me I'm not good enough, or the version of myself that tells me I'm not good enough, that little voice that tells me I'm not worthy. I feel like I need it. And I've struggled to just let that voice go, because I understand that voice has gotten me to different levels of motivation. But I understand that you can only lead. I understand that you can only lean into that negative voice for so long. You can only feed into that negativity for so long. And when you're using negativity, and when you're using that little voice that's screaming all of these things at you that aren't nice and they aren't good, that can only get you so far. And at what point will you relieve that negative voice of its duties to lean into the positive version or the higher version of yourself? Because that's the best thing, and that's the number one thing you should be leaning into for motivation, for inspiration, not the negative voice. But I also realize when you've been through some traumatic things, that negative voice is all you know. That voice of telling you aren't good enough, that you're not worthy of love, that you aren't worthy of these things, that you can't achieve these things, that you're not who you say you are. You can only lean into that voice for so long. And at a certain point, it becomes draining. You look at it and you're just like, when am I ever going to think positive thoughts again? When am I ever going to love myself? When am I ever going to pour into myself the way that I know I could? When am I going to let go of that negative voice because I know it doesn't serve me anymore? But we stay in that negative voice. we stay thinking these negative thoughts or in this negative place because that's the only thing we've been accustomed to. So we don't even know the other side of it. We don't know that we can actually think good thoughts. We can actually talk nicely to ourselves. We can actually be good to ourselves, and we can actually pour into ourselves with love, with compassion, with empathy. But instead, we choose to absolutely bash ourselves and say the most heinous and harsh things to ourselves because we know that that will get us to a certain point or a certain level. But then when you get to that point, there's a thought that comes up that it won't be worth it to feed all this negativity to yourself. And at the end of the day, all of those negative voices that are talking to you aren't really you. Those are just the things that you've experienced. Those are just the perspective of people that have told you all of these things about yourself. That's not truly you. That negative voice is not truly you. It's been the accumulation of all the negative things or the negative experiences that life has given you, and you've put this narrative into your head and you believe that's you, but that's not you. God didn't create you that way. He didn't create you to be all this negative person to yourself. He didn't create you that way. It's just we hear those negative things and we internalize it. We internalize it. And we use it as our fuel. We use that heartbreak. We use that breakup. We use those negative experiences or that trauma to fuel us to get to that higher place. But then when we get there, we realize that we're just broken. We realize that we're broken and we've been using all this negativity to get to this place. And then maybe we realize that we've neglected the people that we love or the people that love us, our friends, our relationships. And we realize that there's nothing there for us, that we can't celebrate it with anybody. So it's just like this weird thing that using this negative voice, and sometimes I feel like I need it to get me to that next level, but that can only get me so far. And I feel like I might be at a point now where I realize that negative voice just needs to go. It's not serving me anymore. It's not doing me any good to keep that fueling me. Like, at what point am I going to love myself? Or at what point am I going to talk better to myself? Because that's what I deserve, you know? And then all these feelings of unworthiness or not being loved or not feeling lovable or, you know, not feeling worthy of success stems from all of these negative things that I say to myself because I feel like I need that voice. But that's not true. And I feel like I'm struggling to let that go because I've used the negative experiences and the negative things that have happened to me for so long. So I don't know the other side of it. I don't know what love to myself actually looks like and the things that I could say to myself actually look like. Because I've seen it from one lens for so long. It's a good question. If you could sit face to face with a version of you who first started this podcast, what would you say to him? What would he be proud of and what might disappoint him? I think what I would say to the version of myself that first started this podcast is that you are worthy. That you are worthy of this. That what has happened to you isn't your future. What happened to you in the past isn't your current reality. I would say to this version of myself that you are very, very hard on yourself. And for what? Why are you hard on yourself? That this is not going to come easy. I would say to that version of myself that it's not going to be, you're going to have so many nights where you're thinking about the podcast and you're wondering if it's going to work out. And I think that you don't deserve that, you know, like the version of myself that he's just an innocent person, you know, He doesn't deserve that hate that he gives to himself. Because he's just trying the best, and he's trying to become the best person and the best version of himself. I would say it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. You're going to be talking to people that you've never dreamed that you'd talk to. All these people that you've looked up to, on social media, or you've been following their accounts, you've been watching. You're going to meet them one day, and it's going to be awesome. Like, it's going to be healing. But I would say to him that he doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve that hate that he gives to himself. And I think just be proud of how far you've came from where you were. Because by you not accepting the things that have came into your life and you not celebrating them, you're just reaching for a different point or a different level. And just like, in a sense, you're doing this all by yourself with no help. Nobody's setting these lights up for you. Nobody's telling you to go record. Nobody's telling you to reach out to these people. You're doing it all yourself. And be proud in how far you've came by yourself. Because it won't be like this forever. And even though you think that it might be like this forever, and you're struggling to pay for the studio, and you're luggaging all of the equipment, and you're coming to the studio, 30 minutes early, 45 minutes early, just to prepare and set up all the stuff, and in a way just, kind of set up this episode. Like, be proud of that. Because not many people are doing that. Not many people are showing up willingly to this studio, putting themselves in debt willingly to really create this vision and really create this conversation and create this podcast for other people to listen and know that human connection is possible. So be proud of everything that you've done up to this point. And knowing that there's brighter days ahead. The darkness that you seek in the short term or in the near sight isn't going to be the long term. It isn't going to last forever. And be proud of the people that you've met. Like, be proud of just what you've done by yourself. Not many people would be able to keep this afloat for 3 years, 4 years, or how long I've been doing the podcast. Like, not many people would keep it up. Not many people would be able to do it. And you've done it. And you've learned. And you've grown. And you've failed. And you've when people said that you wouldn't, you've done it. That's not to say that you're done and you're anywhere close to being done, but like, you're building something meaningful, and you need to start seeing that. So that's really what I would just say to him. And the things that might disappoint him, or the success that you seek, is not going to come fast as you want. It took you 2 to 3 years to get to the spot that you're at now. It took you 2 to 3 years to get 1,000 subscribers and build a following on TikTok. And it's not going to come easy. And I think anything easy in life is never worth having. Because the slow process to becoming 1% better every day, the small increments, is about seeing the changes you made today, and hopefully the tomorrow you're able to see that difference. And if you don't see it tomorrow, then you'll see it from a month from now. But if you keep putting in that work and you keep pouring into the things that you want in this life, eventually you'll get to the point that you're at now. You'll see so much you'll see so much conviction in those small details and the small improvements each day, that a couple months from now you'll see a completely different person, a completely different platform, a completely different life. By just those small increments, by focusing on the details and getting the things that you need to get done today and focusing on that for the long term. Because the becoming 1% better every day is just those small increments, but you don't see it. But you see it in hindsight, or you see it when the opportunity presents itself. Continue to trust that journey. Continue to tell yourself that it's going to get better, and put in those small details each day, and those small increments each day, and the small improvements each day. Because at one point, you will realize it, and it will come to fruition, but you won't see it you won't see it overnight. It's going to take years for you to get to the place that you want to be. And even now, I'm still not where I want to be. And I know it's going to take me years, or maybe not years, to get to where I want to be. But I'm willing to accept the challenge of it taking years, because I understand that the journey is more important than the destination. The journey will always be more important than the destination. It's not getting to that destination and achieving it. It's who do you become along the way? What do you learn about yourself along the way? What type of character do you build along the way? What type of person do you build along the way? It's never about achieving it. It's never about achieving the biggest podcast in the world or the biggest self-help podcast in the world. It's about becoming the best podcast in the world. And if you don't achieve that, well, who did you become along that journey? How did you change your life along that journey? What habits did you let go of to reach this level? If you did reach it, it's never about achieving the thing. It's about who do you become along the way to achieve that thing. And I focus so much, like even now, and I'm letting go of that idea. And back then I thought that, if I just focus on the destination, I'll be more happy. But I've learned that by focusing on the journey, I've loved it way more. It's never been about posting each episode. It's never about how many clips can I get out. It's never been about reaching the certain amount of subscribers or reaching the certain amount of followers to this platform. It's about becoming this person each day that I seek, or that I want to be, and knowing that I might never do it. It's the curiosity and the thought, well, what if I just keep putting in the work today? The destination and the outcome doesn't ever matter, even if you never reach it, So I think that's the thing that he might be disappointed, is that how long it's taken him, and maybe practicing more patience. What's the cost of being the strong one? The one people come to for inspiration, advice, for motivation. Who pours into you? Oof. I think anybody can relate to this, but the cost of being the strong one and giving that advice is that I think people have this perception that you have it figured out. People think that you have this life thing figured out. That, oh, it looks glamorous on social media. That, oh, these episodes look great. Oh, you look so motivated all the time, or you run. And that's exactly what I've been getting lately, actually, is that people have been like, yo, how's the running journey coming along? You've inspired me to run. Not knowing that most of the time when I'm running, I'm forcing myself to run. I'm forcing myself sometimes to show up to these episodes. And when I say forcing myself to show up to these episodes, sometimes there's some days where, my mental health is just off. And I push myself, and I understand that, I have to show up to this, so I'm going to show up to this. But most of that shows up in the gym, or shows up on these runs that I've been, documenting. That I willingly want to show up for this run, or willingly want to show up to work out. It's never like that. And some people look at that as that I'm so motivated. But I've realized you can't rely on motivation. Because motivation is just an emotion. It's just a fleeting feeling that you could feel inspired in the moment. But you lean on discipline, because discipline will get you farther than motivation and inspiration ever could. It's like when you're watching a clip of a motivational speaker, or you're listening to somebody's podcast and they're saying an emotional and inspirational message. You listen to it, you watch it, you feel inspired, then it goes. It's gone. But discipline says, despite how I'm feeling, despite the things that I feel in this current moment, despite how my mental health is, despite my health, despite all these external things or internal things, I have to show up. I have a run scheduled for three miles. I have a run scheduled for 5 miles. I have a workout or going to the gym that I know I have to go to because I had to pour into myself. I have to do it, despite how I'm feeling. That is what discipline says. Because I understand the emotions that I have in this moment aren't real, or they're trying to let me not become the best version of myself, so I can't lean into these feelings or emotions. I can't lean into these feelings or emotions because I understand that these aren't always real. And discipline says, despite how you're feeling, you have to show up. You have to show up. That's what discipline says. Despite how you feel, despite what you're going through, you have to show up. And that's not to say you can't take mental health days. That's not saying that at all. That you can't take days if you're not feeling well. But I'm saying when you tell yourself you're going to do something, you have to show up. Discipline requires that. Discipline doesn't lean on motivation or inspiration because you built these habits to show up and to complete this thing. So you must complete this thing. Despite how you're feeling, you have to do that and provide that for yourself. And if you lean on motivation or inspiration, you will never be successful, or you will never get to the point that you want to be at or the person that you want to become, because you're leaning into this feeling, because I feel sad, or I feel like I won't be able to do the best workout, or I feel all of these things. Discipline says otherwise, that you must show up despite all of that. And that's what I would just say to, myself, is that people think that I have this thing all figured out, that it looks like I have this thing all figured out on social media, but that's the farthest thing from the truth. I don't have it figured out. I'm figuring it out just like you. Yeah, have I been blessed? And has God placed me in rooms or people or circumstances? Yeah, He has. And I'm blessed and I'm grateful. But that does not mean that I have it figured out. That does not mean that what you see is always the real. There's a lot of times where I don't feel motivated or I don't feel inspired to do something, but I do it anyways. And that's the struggle, is that you have to show up regardless of how you feel. That's the struggle that becomes with the strong one, is that you have to show up regardless. And that's a heavy burden. That's a heavy burden to carry, It's a heavy burden to carry. But I'm slowly getting through it, and I'm slowly pushing forward. And I'm becoming a better version of myself because of it. And you guys have inspired me in so many ways. And the love, the messages, the people that show support and show love, can never be able to repay that, It's because of you guys. And also, I want to be able to create this platform for people to come by and show or display a real and vulnerable conversation. What's your definition of becoming 1% better? And what's something about that journey that still scares you to this day? I think it's really just finding, ironic that I have this 1% method that I've been experimenting with. It's a physical win, a mental win, a spiritual win, and a purpose win. Purpose is whatever you feel like God has called you to do, whatever that thing is. For me, is to create content, inspire the world, motivate others, inspire myself through that process. And the thing that I feel like I was called to do, and I feel like I was called to do that from God. Spiritual, in terms of, any spiritual practice, meditation, mental wellness, connecting to yourself on a higher level. And a mental win could just be like, reading a book or watching a podcast or learning something new. And a physical win is anything physical, a workout, a run. And I think that I've been coming to this realization that if I can do those 4 things, I became 1% better today. And I think it's just those 4 things the physical win, the mental win, the purposeful win, and the physical win, the mental win, the spiritual win, and the purposeful win. The 4 things. And it's just those 4 things. And if I can do that in my day, I became 1% better today because I got closer to my purpose. I got closer to the spiritual realm and who you pray to or who you look as your God or whatever that is to you. The mental win that I actually learned something today from a podcast, from a book, and I became better in my physical fitness. And those 4 things, I've had great days when I've completed all 4. And when I didn't complete all 4, I didn't feel as good. I didn't feel like I became better today. So I think it's those small things, those 4 pillars of success, or those 4 pillars of becoming better. And I think that's what becoming 1% better to me means, is attacking and accomplishing those 4 pillars and accumulating those over time. And as you accumulate those over time, you realize you became a way better person over a span of months or a span of years by implementing those things than by not. And something that still scares me is not reaching my fullest potential, not getting to the point that I know I could be. And then, it's the great quote that I've seen is, at the end of your life, I think David Goggins said it, at the end of your life, you meet God. And there's a paper and it has on it all the things that you could have been, but you don't realize it or you don't know it in the beginning. And you see millionaire, successful podcaster, successful content creator, inspire the world. And me, I look at that paper and I'm like, who is that? Who's that guy? And God says, that's you. That's who you could have been. But you chose to not live up to the full potential that you know you could be. Or I called you to be. And you've wasted your time, you wasted your talent, you wasted your potential in doing other things. But this right here on this paper, that's who you could have been. But you didn't fulfill that. I think that's what scares me the most, is not fulfilling my full potential. That I know not fulfilling my potential that God has called me to be. Not fulfilling my potential to become the best version of myself with the things that I've been given, the opportunities I've been given, and the person that I know I could be. And I think that's what scares me the most, is not achieving that. Because when I lay my head down on the pillow sometimes, I know that I could be doing better. I should be doing more. And I could be doing all of these things, but I don't do it. And I don't want to be at 50, 60 years old, looking back on my life, seeing all these things that I could have done, or that example of God showing me who I could have been and not achieving it, or not even getting close to it. And not committing to this process of becoming that version of myself. I think that's what scares me. And I think that's sometimes what motivates me too, is all these opportunities that you've been given, all of these things that you've been given by God, go after it. And don't sell yourself short, and live up to that potential or that person that you know you could be. So not fulfilling my potential is probably my biggest scare, my biggest worry. It's not about me achieving it, right? It's about me at least going after it and me at least trying to get there. Because if I can attempt something and maybe fail at it or not achieve it, then that's okay, because at least I attempted it. But if I didn't attempt at being the best version of myself, if I didn't attempt to go after the things that I want in this life, or attempt to create the life that I envision, and I don't make an attempt or a stab at it, and I just sit back and be complacent and don't live to the fullest of potential that I know I could be, then that's on me. And I have to live with that. And I'll have regret about that. Is not living to the person that I know I could be, or at least trying it, at least attempting at it. And if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. Then that's not what God has planned for me. But at least if I know I attempt something and I try to make it my current reality, then I feel like God will move things along the way so you can get to that version of yourself, or get to that end version or that end goal or that achieve that thing, right? But I think what scares me is not trying or not attempting to become that person or to create that reality for myself or to become successful. Like, not at least attempt. And then look back and see that, all this was for nothing. Or I didn't go after it. I didn't attempt it. So I think that's what scares me the most. It's not about achieving it. It's not about achieving it, right? It's not about the destination for me. It's about at least creating this journey and becoming this person in hopes to get to that destination. But it's never about the destination for me. Even though I, in the past, was very caught up about it. I'm going to end it here. If you like this episode, if you've gotten this far, thank you guys. AI, man, it's getting real. It's getting real. This was an interesting conversation or an interesting interview or interesting perspective to look at my life objectively from a different point of view. So I might do this. If you guys like these solo episodes, let me know in the comments what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. I'm open to anything, but I just want to say thank you guys again. I appreciate you guys' support. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for everything. This is the 1% Podcast. I'm out.